All right, you guys, so we're getting into the ingredient list. FYI, my kids are in the room, they're in the house, I'm a mom, this is what we're doing, okay? So noises will be noises. I bought some of these ingredients a while back, like my KitchenAid, not an ingredient, but just the necessary part of life. I bought it in July. Bought it specifically to bake my own bread, y'all, because I don't know how it is in y'all grocery stores, but over here, bread, a basic brand is $6. Okay, forget baguettes and all those other things. Okay, just forget that, because you can't get it, you can't afford it. So I need to bake my bread. But I bought these ingredients a while back because bread was making me nervous, especially the yeast part of it. So let me just show you what the recipe calls for. By the way, I'm using a recipe from online. All Recipes is the site. I will link it below. It's got great reviews, almost like 3,000 or like 2,500 to almost 3,000 great reviews. It's advertised as a simple whole wheat bread recipe, so we will see. I may try another recipe and kind of merge the two based on what I like. The parts of both that I like, I'll make my own kind of thing. But right now, this is what we're doing. So I've got my Robin Hood all-purpose wheat flour, which, you guys, I bought this so long ago, I don't even know if it's still good, but we gonna find out. Only way to find out something's good is to use it. I also have my Purity all-purpose flour. This recipe calls for bread flour. I don't have that, so hopefully this is a good substitute. Also, I have self-instant yeast. When I tell you that I bought this well, I didn't buy it. I was talking to a chef, and she was like, there's a bunch of this in the kitchen. Just take a package. That was in May, y'all. All for the fare of this is why I have not been baking bread. I got some honey as well. Recipe calls for honey. My favorite brand is Sun Supreme. Favorite because it's delicious, but also favorite because it's cheap. This was $3. Morton iodized salt. I also have, I'm substituting butter for margarine, and this is the brand that I'm using, Do Fresh margarine. This is like $2.50, $2.30 something and change. Anyway, this is what I'm using. I also got, in terms of tools, my measuring cup for the water, because this also calls for water, warm water to help the yeast rise. And then I also got my measuring situations, smaller cups and teaspoons and tablespoons and stuff. I have a mixing spoon, which I don't know if this is a mixing spoon, but it's a spoon and I use it to mix. Here we are. I've got a mixing bowl, paper towels because it's about to get messy. I have a kitchen towel so that I can let the bread rise when I'm supposed to. And I will not be using my KitchenAid to mix the ingredients. I will be mixing them by hand. But when it comes to kneading, I will be using my kneading hook, which I don't know if that's what it's called, but that's what I'm going to be using it for according to the internet. I'm going to use my kneading hook in the KitchenAid to knead the dough because I don't want to be doing that with my own hands because that seems rough. And did I forget anything else? No, that is all the recipe calls for. So let's get measuring and let's get mixing and let's get baking. Turns out, I had to Google this. Self-instant and active dry yeast, which the recipe calls for active dry yeast. They're not the same thing. Active dry, I would have to get like water and honey together, room temperature wise, and then put the active dry yeast in, wait for it to do what it's supposed to do, which is get all foamy. Let it sit for 10 minutes, it gets all foamy. I don't have to do that. I can add my self-instant yeast right into my dry ingredients. So I'm just gonna get my dry ingredients together, which is my salt, my white flour first, because the recipe says to add the whole wheat in as you need it. And then I will add my yeast, and then I will mix in my water and my honey and my butter. So let's just get our 5 cups of all-purpose flour, which I did check this. You can substitute all-purpose flour, bread flour for all-purpose flour. It just means that the all-purpose flour won't rise as well, and they say it won't have that chew that you need, which is fine because I have self-instant yeast, so it should help with where the whole, like, it won't rise as well, whatever, like that. The self-instant yeast should help with that. I'm trying to get this all leveled off. So I'm gonna do 5 cups of this. Okay, so that's our 5 cups of flour. Recipe calls for 1 tablespoon of salt, which that seems like a lot to me, but yeah, that seems right. Just seems like a lot of freaking salt, man. It calls for 2 packets of dry active yeast. Each packet is like 0.25 ounces. Ounces converted to tablespoons is that 0.5 ounces, which is the equivalent of 2 packages, would equal to 1 tablespoon. So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of self-instant yeast directly into here. Let me get all this salt out. So how do you store your yeast? Let me know if it's in like a little jar or something. Okay, so, ooh, girl, I am double and triple and checking these ingredients because, like I said, if it's one thing I know about the baking, which I don't know much, is that everything has to be super precise, honey. So, ooh, I don't want to spill any of this because I did not buy this. It was for free. And I also don't want any of it spilling because I am gonna balance off the top. Okay, so first of all, let's get on here. This looks like little, anyway, let me don't say what I think it looks like because some of y'all could very well be squeamish. But it just looks like stuff certain pests leave behind after they've been like living in your cupboard, messing with your food, stuff like that. Uh-oh, the baby's awake. When I say baby, I mean the 2-year-old toddler. There's a baby next door, well, 2 twins. Oh my gosh, they are sick. Because, you know, they have an older brother, I think they do, who went to school. And, you know, he just brought home whatever was going around in the classroom, y'all. So, you know how that is. Okay, so now we're gonna mix. Mix. We're gonna mix. Actually, I prefer to bring in my whisk on this one, just for even distribution. A little hand whisk. So we're gonna mix all that in. And this is supposed to give me 3 loaves, you guys. This is not just 1 loaf, this is actually 3 loaves. So according to the recipe, I needed to have, after I combined the water, the yeast, and the honey, then I would have added the bread flour or the all-purpose flour, and then combined and then let it sit for 30 minutes until it was like big and bubbly, right? But I'm not, like, I don't have that, whatever. Then after I let it sit till it gets like bubbly, I would mix in 3 tablespoons of melted butter, remaining 1/3 cup of honey, and then the salt, and stir in. So I think what I'm just gonna do, because I added the salt, I added the yeast, I added the flour, the all-purpose flour, is I'm just gonna add the 2 cups of the whole wheat in now, and add in the melted butter and the honey and the water, like all right now, because it doesn't seem like I need to be breaking it up, because I'm not using the active dry yeast. I think I shaved like 30 minutes off this recipe just off of not using that. I'm gonna add in my, this could be wrong. I'm gonna add in my 1 cup of honey, which I did, again, I also Googled this, and it did say you wanna pour wet into dry. When I bake banana bread, I pour dry into wet, but apparently that was wrong, honey. Well, actually, no. They did say there's no wrong or right way to go about doing it. So yeah, but I'm gonna do it this way, this go round. Okay, so I had melted the butter in the microwave and it got too hot. So then I was like, what is that gonna do to the yeast? And I was like, let's better let it cool down. And while it was cooling down, I was catching up on an episode of The Resident which if y'all aren't watching, I mean, you probably should be watching. It's really good. It's so good. So we're gonna do our 3 tablespoons of butter. Ooh, look at that. I did just the right amount. Hello. 3 tablespoons of butter. And then we're gonna mix that in very well. I don't want to stir it around. Instead, I want to kind of work it into everything. And then when I get it to be not as lumpy as it is, then I'll mix it. And obviously when I add in the water, it'll do what it's supposed to do. Now the recipe does call for 4 cups of wheat flour. I only added 2 because we're going to knead the other 2 into the dough, but I'm gonna do that in the KitchenAid. Now we're coming in with the 3 cups of water, right? I took some room temperature distilled water because you can't drink the stuff from our tap here in Nassau, in the Bahamas, unless you got like the best filter that costs you the most money. I took some room temperature bottled water, 3 cups of it, and I heated it in the microwave for like 30 seconds just to get it slightly warm, like the kind of temperature you would want for active yeast to activate. And the reason why I did that was because I wanted the butter that's in here and the honey that's in here to like kind of like melt into, not kind of, I don't know, harden up against cold water. So that's what I did. So I'm gonna add bits of the water and stir it in gradually. See, this is why I like to do freaking dry to wet and not wet to dry, because this stuff be clumping. Time to bring in the big guns. Now, I've got my kneading hook, which I'm going to attach. Oh, my husband sent me a voice message. Okay. And I'm gonna add our dough, which y'all, look at our dough. Wait, hold on. Let me push this back a little bit. We will bring her forward when we need her. But look at our dough. So what I recommend is when you're, and I just turned on the fan because it's hot here, so sorry about that. When you're mixing in your dry ingredients, like getting your salt and your yeast and your different kinds of flour in, use a whisk. But when you're adding in, and obviously when you're adding in the honey and the butter, use a whisk for a more refined blend. But when you're adding in the water, use a spoon. As you can see, I struggled, but we figured it out because now the dough looks like what it's supposed to look like. So now I'm going to transfer it into the KitchenAid stand mixer bowl that comes with. I think I should get an extra one of these. I got this on eBay, y'all. I'm going to transfer our dough into... Oh, look at the pull away, y'all. I might have done this the right way. Like, it ain't looking too bad. It's looking like what it's supposed to look like. You know what I mean? So this is how you can tell it needs to knead, because look at how it's sticking on everything, but it's like pulling away. We need a clean pull away. Like, we need it to pull away from the bowl and just attach itself to the hook. Then we know we've kneaded it enough. Let's get this on. And then I'm gonna attach, wait, hang on. First, let's get that in there like that. I'm gonna attach this here. I can never, oh, okay, it's on right. And then I'm gonna get me a cup of wheat flour just to have on standby. And I'm just gonna like slowly feed it into here. Now, certain people got different timing about how long you need the bread for, but rule of thumb is until it pulls away nice and clean from the mixer or from your hands or, you know, whatever. So I got this on standby. And I'm gonna put this on 2, just like 1 to 2, and we're gonna mix.
Okay, so as you guys see, I'm adding in the wheat flour as the mixer is on a speed of 2. And for the first few seconds, this is going fine. But at some point, the dough starts to just kind of rise above the actual attachment itself. Like I'm going to start having to peel it off of the attachment in like a second for you guys to see. I think I know why that happened, and I'm going to explain it in the next clip, but you can see me just peeling it away because it started to connect to the machine itself.
All right, you guys, so development. The dough started to connect with the machine itself and like beyond the hook attachment. So my assessment is that we are baking, well, we're mixing enough for 3 loaves, and so I overloaded the machine. That's why the dough was like rising up into it. Maybe maximum enough for 2 loaves you can get away with, but not 3. So we shall knead by hand. This is something I have never done before in my life. Gonna set out some of this. This is our other cup of flour, so now we're at the 4 cup of flour mark because this still isn't doing what it needs to do as a dough. And I'm gonna plop her out of there. And I'm gonna start kneading her by hand, which I don't know what kneading really means. I probably ain't doing it right, but I will give it my best go.
So here I am having to do what I didn't want to do, which is knead the bread by hand, and you can just see clumps of the wheat flour that did not incorporate properly into the rest of the dough while it was in the mixer. But in this clip, you can see like it's perfectly kneaded. It's starting to pull away from the counter. I'm having to use less flour. And ever since I tried this recipe the first time, like in this video, I've been kneading it by hand, and it's just been a really nice experience. So yeah.
Well, we're done kneading the bread. I have about half a cup of flour left, and then I kind of discarded like a few. So let's just say I ended up using 3 1/3 cups of flour. So putting that where it needs to be. Now I'm gonna knead this into like a log shape, because remember, actually no, I'm not gonna knead this into a log shape. I am going to put it in a bowl and put a kitchen towel over it. So hold on, let me find a dry bowl. Taking a little bit of Weston's vegetable oil. I actually prefer to use canola. I'm gonna take like about half of a capful and get it into the bowl, because I need to put this in the bowl to let the bread rise, but it has to be a greasy bowl. Has to be a greasy bowl. So this looks like it'll take a little longer, but I don't want it to be too greasy either. Anyway, come back when the bowl is greased up. Y'all listen, it is getting hot on the residence. Okay, 4 of my favorite characters are like married. Well, 2 couples are married, and now the 3rd one, unexpected. I was just happy to see them date, but now they're getting married because homegirl's about to get deported. But homeboy is like, this is real because we're so great together, and they are. But now she's like, it's a business transaction. Anyway, it's getting hot. And I was watching that while I was greasing the bowl. Y'all know what it is. So bowl is greased, dough is doughed. I need to put this in here. And that was so satisfying. And I also need to make sure to roll this around so that the dough gets oil all around. I don't know that this is the technique, but this is the one I got. So it can then slip out of the bowl nice and neat. And we're gonna leave this alone so that it can rise. I'm gonna put our trusty kitchen towel over top and check y'all back in a few hours. All right, it's been 45 minutes, and we, as you can see, just off of looking at the top, it's already like risen. My friend from Jamaica was telling me that I could have just put this in the microwave or put it in the oven with the cloth over top because it's like warmer in there, and this would have risen in like half the time. The requested time was 45 minutes to an hour. I went with the 45 minutes, so let's just see how we did. There she is, looking all risen. Now, elephant in the room. Some of y'all are looking at my dish and are like, oh my gosh, what the heck? This is rusted. She can't use this or whatever. I also have these, right? And for all intents and purposes, I can just put my bread right in here and let it rise and then go and deal with the loaves, right? Bake them. I don't put anything in here that's going to connect with the pan itself. I use parchment paper, people, and if I'm using parchment paper, this is very much usable. I actually thrifted this for $1.50, and using the parchment paper, I have baked banana bread in this like at least 5 times. No incidents, no issues. So I mean, you might have tossed this away, but I chose to save it and give it a second life. And so yeah, and these were relatively inexpensive. These were like $10 each, $1.50, and I can bake my 3 loaves of bread. So I'm gonna get some parchment paper, put them in here, section this off into 3, and then I'm going to let it rise in here before I put it into the oven. Be right back.
Okay, you guys, this isn't like a big dupe or anything, but I just take the parchment paper and I lay it over top of the pan. I stick my hand in there, my entire palm, and then I just wait for the paper to fold naturally. And then I follow those folds because it's basically the paper telling me, okay, this is how I'm going to fit into this pan and this is how I'm going to stay. So I'm just following the natural folds that appear the second I put my entire palm in there. And then I make sure that I kind of crunch it up over the sides of the pan, and then I just put my dough in and I let it rise, and then the weight of the dough will then keep the parchment paper in place. So it's not a hack or whatever, but this is what I do whenever I have to use these pans, and so I can like use them again. So now it's time to get that risen dough out of that bowl and get it sectioned into 3 so that we can get our individual loaves. I tried to do this when it was fresh out of the bowl, but then I realized you're not going to be able to get your measurements accurately. So what I ended up doing is forming it into, like rolling it into a log shape, which I felt evened out the dough a little bit more. And so then I went in with the butter knife and I started to cut out sections. And I do this every single time. It's just a little thing. It wasn't mentioned in the recipe, but this is what I found was easiest when it came to getting as close to the exact amount of dough that needs to go in every single pan. And again, I'm just using the butter knife to cut it out. Once I have the sections separated, I roll them out individually into a log. I find like this is very important to get that loaf shape. Most of the dough is concentrated to the center, so I'm rolling center outwards and I'm forming it as I'm rolling it. I'm using my fingertips to form it into that log shape as well as I'm stretching it. And once I get the desired shape, I'm going to plop it into that pan, get a paper towel over it, and let it rise for another hour.
All right, you guys, it's been 45 minutes and the dough has risen in the baking pans. This one, perfection. Look at her. She's giving us all that she needs to give. This one, first runner up. We don't hate her. She's going to be delicious. Stepchild. But anyway, I am a dunce and I forgot to preheat the oven in the last like maybe 5 minutes of it rising. I did just preheat it. You're going to do 35 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius preheat, and then we're going to bake for 25 to 30 minutes. I just like to stick something in it until I see it comes out just clean. Okay, so I might not bake for that full 25 minutes, but I will catch y'all on the flippity flop. We will have golden bread in a little bit because your girl's a baker. She bakes now. Did you know? Did you know? That is loaf number 1. You know what? The stepson, that didn't turn out too bad. She's looking real good. Or he. They? Anyways, the stepchild came out okay. Oh my goodness, you guys, look. They're a little bit messy right now, but I did thrift these and they're really good quality. I think I bought them for maybe $4. They just need a good wash after today's events. But look at Look it, look it, look it, look it. I did it. I baked bread. I'm so excited. Next time you guys see another clip, it's gonna be of me making our bacon grilled cheese sandwiches and smoothies. But this was a huge success. Obviously, the only thing that's left to do is to taste them. Waiting for the husband and the son to get home so that we can have this grilled cheese night. Okay? But she's a baker, y'all. Tell your friends.
Okay, I am so proud of myself for this, honestly. Bread is nice and soft. I'm using a serrated knife. I need to buy a bread knife, okay? And since this video, I've made several loaves and still don't own one. Oh, you guessed it. We are going to cook. Okay, we're going to make us a sandwich. So I'm doing some bacon, cheese, egg sandwiches. It's a breakfast sandwich. I think we were having this in the middle of the friggin' day though. So I'm getting my bread like toasted just a little bit in that bacon grease as it should be. And I'm making me a sandwich at this point because everybody, all members of my family, the 4 kids, the husband, like they already have their sandwiches. They are eating. I am not. So I'm getting my Swiss cheese in there. I'm gonna be adding a little bit of cheddar. I love cheese. I love cheese. Just thought I should let you know that about me. I'm putting the bacon in there. Oh man, listen to me. Tell me why. that my, Tell me why my mouth is watering as I'm watching this. Oh, so then I'm going in with the cheddar. Listen to me, I cannot attest to the quality of the cheese, okay? If there are some cheese snobs here or just enjoyers of cheese, hate to call you snobs, I take that back. I can't promise that this is it tasted real good. I'm added my egg, which I did sunny side up like in another time, and then I'm gonna assemble the sandwich and just start flipping it over and helping that cheese to melt. I need I need the sandwich. I need the sandwich right now because I just because I need the sandwich. And you could hear the kids them munching too in the background, which just made it even harder for me to wait for this to cook all the way through so that I could like really truly enjoy it when it was done. But yeah, of course, I also wanted to make a smoothie to go with this. So let me just give you my smoothie recipe. I processed some strawberries, so frozen strawberries. They go bad so quick, so I like to get them in a Ziploc baggie. These are some papaya, some fresh papaya that was growing on the property, and my landlord said, "Hey, do you guys eat this?" These are sour oranges. Like we grow sour oranges on the island. I get a couple of them from the tree in my backyard. I juice them. I put them in ice trays, and then everybody can just grab a cube for whatever they need. Iced tea, I marinate meat with them. Yeah, frozen pineapples. I threw in some ice cubes as well. My sweetener of choice is always going to be honey, although I do like to add guava to some of my smoothies, at which point I'll use the syrup that the guava was sitting in the can, and then I use that. I'm adding a little bit more water. And then I just give it a good blend, and those are my smoothies. To be fair, smoothies can be any fruit that I've got in the freezer that I've processed into Ziploc baggies. And here we are with our sandwich all done and my smoothie. And again, by the time I sat down to eat, everybody else was already done. Okay, after making all of that, I need to try it. Did I take a bite off camera? Yes, because after taking all them pictures that may or may not be aesthetically pleasing, I don't know who's the judge, I'm starving. So, sandwich. So good. My husband said add an egg.
That grilled cheese turned into so many things except a grilled cheese sandwich. Yo. Gotta try a smoothie. Which I did. So good. Did I push all the food outside to one side of my mouth? I think I dribbled a little bit. I wonder if I caught that on camera. Anyways, I did dribble. But did I push the food on one side of my mouth just so I can taste the smoothie? Absolutely. I don't got all day to be eating in front of camera for y'all. I got to go. But thanks for, hanging out and watching me make bread and stuff. Did you guys like the bread?
Yes, Mom.
Anna, did you like the sandwich? Yep. We out. We gotta eat. Bye.